Ladies and gentlemen, football fans across the nation, buckle up because Thursday night under the lights at Lincoln Financial Field is about to deliver one of those NFC East grudge matches that reminds us why we bleed green, or in this case, blue, for this brutal, beautiful division. Picture this: the Philadelphia Eagles, fresh off a frustrating stumble against the Broncos, staring down the New York Giants in a primetime showdown that reunites a certain explosive running back with his old stomping grounds. Yeah, I'm talking about Saquon Barkley, the human highlight reel who bolted from Big Blue to Bird Gang, and now the Giants are sweating bullets over how to cage him. What a story! Will the Eagles unleash their ground game and soar back into contention, or will this be another chapter in the endless saga of divisional heartbreak? Stick with me, because tonight on Eagles Nation Report, we're diving deep into the drama, the tactics, and the what-ifs that could define Philly's 2025 season. Let's kick things off with the heartbeat of this matchup: that electric reunion between Saquon Barkley and the Giants. Folks, if you haven't caught the buzz, Barkley, traded to Philly in a move that sent shockwaves through the league last offseason, had a quiet night against Denver, just 30 yards on 6 carries in a loss that left Eagles fans groaning from South Philly to the suburbs. But come Thursday, expect fireworks. Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, that towering force of nature who's anchored New York's front for years, didn't mince words when he talked to NFL.com. You don't want to be the team to let him get hot. So, you've got to stay disciplined Thursday and go win. Disciplined? Against Saquon? Good luck with that. The guy's a former number 2 overall pick out of Penn State, a back who once racked up 91 catches as a rookie and turned MetLife into his personal playground. Now in midnight green, Barkley's averaging 4.8 yards per tote this season, and with Philly's O-line, led by the grizzled veteran Lane Johnson, who's been pancaking defenders since the Chip Kelly era, paving the way, the Giants know they're in for a long night. And speaking of the Giants' prep work, their safety Tyler Nubin hit the nail on the head. I think everybody expects that. When you don't get your best guy involved and don't get the result that you want, obviously things are going to change. Linebacker Bobby Okereke echoed it, saying, "Saquon is a high-impact player and every time he steps on the field, he's got potential to be the best player on the field." Translation: New York's D-line, stout as it is with Lawrence and Brian Burns breathing down their necks, is bracing for a heavy dose of the run. Last time these teams met in Week 1, Philly leaned pass-heavy early, but that was before the bye-week tweaks from Nick Sirianni. Now, with Barkley chomping at the bit, expect Kellen Moore to dial up those outside zones and power gaps that made the Eagles' ground attack the league's best in 2022. It's poetic, really. Barkley, who toiled behind a porous Giants O-line for years, now behind one of the NFL's most dominant units. If he breaks one for 50+, Lincoln Financial will erupt like it did after that 2017 Super Bowl parade down Broad Street, when "Fly, Eagles, fly" echoed off every cheesesteak joint in the city. But hold on, because before we get to the game tape, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the wide receiver in the huddle. A.J. Brown, the big-bodied beast who exploded onto the scene with the Titans before becoming Philly's alpha target, has been in a bit of a funk this year. We're talking 5 catches for 43 yards in that Denver debacle, a far cry from the 1,400-yard monster seasons that earned him 2 Pro Bowls. Fans have been vocal, social media's lit up with #FreeAJ memes, and it's clear the pressure's mounting. Enter the unsung hero of team chemistry, Saquon Barkley himself. After the game, Barkley opened up to ESPN about a private powwow he had with Brown and quarterback Jalen Hurts. "I felt like that conversation was meant to stay between us, but the focus was all about the team, and I think it was a good thing," Saquon said. He downplayed the drama. "No, this wasn't some mutiny like those infamous players' meetings that spell doom for franchises. We're teammates, we're all friends, we're just having a conversation." Barkley even admitted he'd rather it stayed under wraps. "I personally wish that wasn't out there, to be honest. But people saw us having a conversation, and they got out there." Jalen Hurts, ever the steady captain since taking over as the franchise guy in 2020, framed it perfectly. "It's just us talking about the collective, talking about taking ownership for what we can and talking about how we move forward as a team so we continue to find ways to win games." Ownership, that's the word, folks. In a league where egos can sink ships faster than a fumbled snap, this feels like vintage Eagles grit. Remember, this is the same Jalen Hurts who dragged Philly to the Super Bowl 2 years ago on sheer will, threading needles to Brown and Devonta Smith while the tush-push became a national phenomenon. Brown's no slouch either. The guy's a 6 feet 1 inch, 226-pound freight train with hands like magnets, Think of that 96-yard bomb in the playoff win over the Giants back in 22, when he stiff-armed a defender into next week. If this heart-to-heart sparks him, watch out. Devonta Smith, the slender speedster they call the Slim Reaper, chimed in hypothetically through the grapevine. Imagine him saying, "AJ's our X factor. Once he gets that fire, defenses fold like cheap lawn chairs." And Lane Johnson, the mustache-wearing maestro of the right tackle spot, probably pulled Jordan Mailata aside for his own pep talk. "Kid, we've been through Super Bowl runs and sideline sidesteps. Keep blocking, and the yards will come." Shifting gears to the trenches, where wars are won and lost, let's talk defensive reinforcements. Linebacker Nakobe Dean, the speedy second-rounder out of Georgia who's been sidelined all season with a nagging knee tweak, is expected to make his 2025 debut on Thursday. Matt Zenitz has the scoop. Dean's been a practice squad stud, flying around like Brian Dawkins in his prime. Remember Weapon X, the safety who terrorized quarterbacks with those bone-rattling hits and that infectious energy? Dean's got that same bulldog mentality, and with Zach Bond holding down the fort, his return could supercharge Philly's linebacker core. Pair that with the front four, anchored by the rising star Jordan Davis. ESPN's Dan Graziano is buzzing about Davis's stock. He's in year 4, dominating with those 6 feet 6 inches, 336-pound paws that swallow up runs like a black hole. "I'm keeping an eye on DT Jordan Davis regarding a possible contract extension," Graziano writes, and why not? The guy's fresh off Georgia's national title squad, and his 2024 breakout, 3 sacks, 45 tackles, has Howie Roseman's quill itching for ink. Imagine Davis stuffing Barkley's old teammate, Devin Singletary, on third down. That's the stuff of NFC East nightmares for New York. Now, let's zoom out for some historical spice, because nothing fuels this rivalry like the ghosts of gridiron's past. The Eagles-Giants feud? It's biblical, dating back to 1933, when Philly joined the league as the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets' sad stepchild. But fast forward to the glory days. Think 1960, when Norm Van Brocklin orchestrated that 17-10 upset for Philly's last pre-Super Bowl title, or the 80s dog days when Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, swapped green for greenbacks but left a legacy of 198 sacks that still echoes. And who can forget the 2017 miracle? Down 28-22 to the Pats in the Super Bowl, Foles to Clement, for the Philly special, etching, "Fly, Eagles, fly into eternity." Against the Giants specifically? Philly's owned the last decade, going 8-2 since 2016, including that 48-22 beatdown in 22 where Hurts looked like a young Donovan McNabb slinging it. Stats don't lie. Eagles rush for 150-plus against New York on average, while holding them to under 20 points. This season, Philly's 3-2, clinging to the NFC East lead by a thread, while the Giants limp in at 1-4. A win here. It'd echo the 2008 Giants upset over the Pats. Wait, no, scratch that. It'd be Philly flipping the script, padding that division resume for a playoff bye. Tactically speaking, Sirianni's got chess moves up his sleeve. The Giants' secondary, leaky as a screen door, ranks 28th in pass defense. Hello, A.J. Brown deep posts and Devonta slants. But New York's pass rush, with Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, could feast if Hurts holds the ball too long. Enter the chess match. Philly's quick game, those RPOs that Hurts masters like a poet, should neutralize that. And on D. Vic Fangio's scheme, bless his mustache, thrives in divisional slugfests, blitzing from odd angles to confuse Daniel Jones or whoever's under center for Big Blue. Expert take. Fictional sideline reporter here. I caught up with former Eagles LB Jeremiah Trotter, who growled, "This ain't about revenge for Saquon. It's about Philly proving we're the big dogs. Run it down their throats, force turnovers, and watch the crowd go wild." Spot on, JT. Comparative stats? Philly's third in red zone efficiency at 65%, Giants 31st, touchdown city if the Birds control the clock. Looking ahead, the implications are massive. A Thursday W catapults Philly to 4-2, breathing life into a season that started with Super Bowl hangover whispers after their 24 Lombardi repeat. Wait, defending champs, remember? It quiets the noise around Sirianni's seat, boosts Brown's confidence for a monster stretch run, and positions the Eagles to pounce on the Cowboys in Dallas next month. Lose. Cue the panic buttons, with the NFC East turning into a four-way knife fight involving Washington. Hey, shout out to their OC Cliff Kingsbury, who's turning heads as a head coaching whisperer per ESPN's Dan Graziano. Kingsbury's air raid wizardry has the Commanders humming, but that's for another night. Predictions. I'll take Eagles 27-17. Barkley 120 yards and a score. Brown bounces back with 100+ receiving. Dean's first pick seals it. Playoffs. Locked in, baby. Philly's destiny is January at the Link. Fans, as the clock ticks down to kickoff, remember what makes Eagles football special. That unfiltered passion from the bird's nest, the sea of green waving terrible towels, not quite Pittsburgh, but close enough, the cheesesteak-fueled tailgates that turn Broad Street into a block party. Whether you're a die-hard since McNabb's River Jump days or a bandwagon convert from the Super Bowl parade, this is your team, your fight. Tune in Thursday on Prime Video, crank up the volume on Sweet Caroline, remixed with Eagle screeches, and let's show the world why Philadelphia doesn't just play football, we live it. This is your Eagles Nation report. Fly high, stay green, and we'll catch you after the win. Go Birds!